The Torah has an interesting directive in this week's Torah portion of Mishpatim. The Torah tells and describes a situation. Ki tir'eh chamor son'acha rovetz tachat masa'o v'chadarta me'azov lo azov ta'azov imo. If you see the donkey of someone you hate crouching under its burden, would you refrain from helping him? You shall repeatedly help him. And it's interesting. Number one, the Torah uses two interesting usages within the context of this verse. Firstly, azov ta'azov imo, a double language, azov ta'azov. From here, the Torah learns two directives. One, if you see someone trying to load their donkey, you have to help them to load up that donkey, that burro. Secondly, if you see a donkey or someone's donkey having difficulty with that load, you must help them with prika, to unload the burden from the animal as well. The second thing, and perhaps even more importantly, is that the Torah uses the word chamor son'acha, the donkey of someone that you hate. The Torah very rarely uses the word hatred. Hatred is a very, very powerful emotion and something that obviously we are supposed to quash. But nonetheless, the Torah uses that vernacular because it wants to emphasize, even if you come across someone that you hate, you still are meant to unload that burden. You're meant to help that person. Now, there are people that we choose or might opt not to socialize with, or we might not necessarily like them that much, or we opt not to have company with them. But we don't hate them. And yet, the Torah uses this strong usage, this strong vocabulary to emphasize to us that even if you have that powerful emotion of hatred to someone, you have to somehow overcome that inclination and demonstrate some compassion, empathy, that you'd like to help that person. The Talmud comments on this verse. What if I come across someone that I love, someone that's a friend of mine, who needs to unload the burden of his animal, he needs help, or in front of me I have someone who I hate, who needs to load the animal. Now obviously unloading the animal would ease the burden of the animal itself, but the Talmud tells us that you have to first opt to help the person who you hate to load their animal. That is the person that you have to aid first. Why? The Talmud says, Kedei lakuf et yitzro. It is more important for man to overcome his evil inclination and to rid himself of any feelings of hatred towards another human being than to unload the burden of an animal that someone you may like. And so we learn from here the importance of compassion, of sensitivity. The Torah understands that we're all human beings. There are people who we may not choose to socialize with. We may not enjoy their company. We may not be their best friends. That's okay. But to have hatred, that's not acceptable. And for that reason, the Talmud teaches us, as does the Torah, you have to overcome your yetzer. You have to overcome your inclination, destroy hatred amongst the Jewish people, and never have that emotion somehow overcome you within any context. Gila was an absolute remarkable person. I don't think I ever saw her demonstrate any hatred to anybody. She had tremendous compassion and love for all people around her. But the Torah understands that maybe Gila was not human, but we are. And we tend sometimes to even say, I hate that person. That's something that cannot exist amongst us. We have to learn to destroy those feelings and through action demonstrate that indeed we have interest in helping others around us. That is the Torah way. That is the Jewish way. It always was and continues to be the Gila way. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you once again for joining us. Please remember to consider subscribing to the page below and send me your comments. I will get back to you. Have a great day.